Okay, welcome everyone. Dr. Linder here. What we're going to be covering in this short lecture is going to be the endocrine system and some of the basics. The whole idea is to try and get you comfortable with some of the main glands, some of the hormones that are secreted, and what their main functions are. So let's take a look and compare and contrast these two systems first, right? The endocrine system to the neural system. Now, both of these systems are control centers. Both of these systems are involved in coordinating and controlling the systems of the body. They just do it through slightly different methods. The neural system is going to release neurotransmitters. Let's see if we can do this here, okay? Whereas the endocrine system releases hormones. So think of these both as chemical messengers. It's just the neural system is going to use the neurotransmitters, and the endocrine system will use hormones, especially if we're talking about the endocrine system versus the exocrine glands, right? Because there's endocrine glands and there are exocrine glands, but endocrine involves hormones. Now, neurotransmitters should sound a little bit familiar, even though we haven't covered the neural system as of yet. We covered the muscular system. And when we did muscles, we talked about a neurotransmitter that was called ACH, which was acetylcholine, right, at that neuromuscular junction. So you're a little bit familiar with that term, neurotransmitters. So hormones are going to circulate through the blood, and they're going to bind to receptors on target cells, and neurotransmitters also bind to receptors on target cells. Now, you heard me talk about endocrine and exocrine. So exocrine, exo, like exit, they're going to secrete their products into ducts, and then those ducts are going to release them somewhere into the epithelial surface. So we have sweat glands that are known as sudiferous glands. We have oil glands that are referred to as sebaceous glands. And then we have mucus glands, and we have digestive glands. Then we have mammary glands, right? So these are exocrine. They're not releasing substances into blood. They're going to excrete these substances into ducts that will find their way to the epithelial surface and sometimes even to outside of the body, as we see with sweat and oil and mammary glands of the breast. Now, digestive glands secrete digestive enzymes, but they're still releasing it into the stomach or into the small intestine, and this is considered epithelial. Endocrine, on the other hand, these are going to secrete hormones. Endocrine glands do not have ducts. Instead, they're going to secrete their hormones directly into interstitial fluid that surrounds them. And then the hormones are going to diffuse into the bloodstream through capillaries, and then they're going to be carried to the target cell throughout the body. So here are some examples of some endocrine glands, and we're going to show you these in more detail and go over them in more detail. But we have the pituitary that is found within the brain, the thyroid within the throat, and the thyroid and parathyroid, these two are associated with one another in their anatomical location. And these two also work synergistically and antagonistically, which we'll see shortly, in regulating calcium balance throughout the body. So I'll put here Ca++. We'll talk about the adrenal. And when you look at the word adrenal, we do see the word renal for kidney. And then we're going to add something to it, right? So it's the adrenal, sometimes referred to as the suprarenal. And remember, the term supra means above, whereas infra means below. And then we have the pineal gland or the pineal gland, also deep within the brain. Then we have another type that is called a mixed gland. Okay, now mixed gland has both endocrine and exocrine function. And a classical example of that would be the pancreas. Okay, the pancreas is considered a mixed gland because it has endocrine portion, which involves insulin and glucagon, and we know that those are going to be regulating sugar balance and glucose balance throughout the body. And then we have an exocrine portion, which are called acinar cells, which involve digestive enzymes. So it's considered a mixed gland. The pancreas is involved in secreting and releasing digestive enzymes like pancreatic protease and pancreatic lipase and pancreatic carbohydrase. Anything that ends in ase is an enzyme. So carbohydrase breaks down carbohydrates, protease breaks down proteins, and lipases break down lipids. The pancreas also releases sodium bicarbonate. And when you learn about the digestive system, sodium bicarbonate is an alkaline or a base, and it will be released into the proximal small intestine, where you have contents of the stomach digesting into that proximal small intestine called a duodenum or duodenum, where those contents may be a little bit acidic due to all the hydrochloric acid in the stomach. So we need something to kind of buffer out the acidity in the duodenum so you don't get a duodenal ulcer. And that's where sodium bicarbonate from the pancreas comes into play. Okay? Okay, this is some other endocrine secreting cells. So we have certain organs that are part of the endocrine system, and then we have certain organs and tissues that are not part of the endocrine system, right? But they do have secreting cells. So an example of that would be the hypothalamus, and that's in the brain. But the hypothalamus has some secreting cells. If we talk about the ovaries and the testes, which are part of the reproductive system, the ovaries and testes also have secreting cells. The kidneys are part of the urinary system, but they have secreting cells. The stomach is part of the GI tract or gastrointestinal tract or digestive system, but they too have secreting cells, as does the liver and the small intestine and the skin, even the heart. Yes, the heart is part of the cardiovascular system, but we will learn that it secretes and releases a hormone called atrionatriuretic polypeptide. Fat cells or adipose. Yep, these adipose are metabolically active, and they release some cytokines that are involved in inflammation. So the more adipose or the more obese an individual is, the more inflammation that is possible and likely in their body. So fat cells can make any type of inflammatory condition worse. And the placenta has secreting cells. Okay, this is a good place to take a break. And when I come back, we'll talk a little bit more detail of the different endocrine glands and what they secrete.